President Muhammadu Buhari is back in Abuja after his trip to London, where he participated at the 25th meeting of the Commonwealth Heads of Governments Biennial Meeting, also known as CHOGM. CHOGM leaders ended deliberations on the future of its citizens some days ago, as stated on the theme of the 2018 meeting. They also arrived at resolutions which were outlined in the communique to guide them over the next couple of years. To what extent is the Commonwealth and its member countries like Nigeria able to turn such resolutions into tangible realities for the benefit of their citizens? This we shall find out as we engage our guests on today's program. I am Shegun Ojelade. I'm being joined in the studio by the Special Advisor to Mr. President on Media and Publicity. He accompanied Mr. President on the trip to London. I welcome Mr. Femi Additional to the program.
Thank you.
Now, you just came back with Mr. President from London on some of his engagements. While there, he had a series of meetings and interactions with global leaders and economic leaders. How will you assess, not CHOGM now, Mr. President's other engagements? What were those things that were remarkable from some of the things he did before the CHOGM meeting?
Thank you. There were a number of meetings he held with groups and individuals. There was this one he held with Nigerians in diaspora. I think they were Muhammadu Buhari, Yemi Osinbajo group in the diaspora. He met with them, and our president has not spoken like that for a while. He opened up and bared his minds to those Nigerians in diaspora. He told them about the current state of the nation, where we are, and how the government is working to reposition the country. It was a no-holds-barred meeting, and his visitors went away satisfied that Nigeria was in safe hands. You know, they are based in the diaspora, so they hear things from home, but they had the opportunity of hearing direct from the president. He also met with Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who you know is a national leader of the APC. So I'm sure that there were some political issues that must have come up there. It was a private meeting, yes. And then, very significantly, he met with his old-time friend, the Archbishop of Canterbury, Justin Welby. It was also a frank meeting. Justin Welby asked about everything: education in Nigeria, security, anti-corruption, everything. And the president was also very frank with him, and they discussed. At the end of it, the Archbishop had counseling words for our president, and he even prayed with him. So that was another good meeting.
He was in 10 Downing Street too.
Yes, he was there. I'm building up. Okay. Again, he met with Shell, Royal Dutch Shell, the international Shell. The Group MD of Shell International was there, and it was another very, very beautiful and fruitful meeting. At the end of it, Shell announced that it will invest $20 billion in Nigeria in the immediate future. That, I think, is a vote of confidence on Nigeria, because if they felt that Nigeria was likely to scatter into smithereens very soon, they wouldn't be bringing that kind of money. But Shell said it will invest $20 billion, which is a lot of money in Nigeria in the foreseeable future. That was another very good meeting. And then, again, another one to mention is the meeting with the Prime Minister, Theresa May. Very good one again. In fact, our president was in his elements. It was a very good meeting. Everything that concerned Nigeria, I recall they spoke about corruption, they spoke about security, they spoke about the economy. And the PM commended our president for what is happening to the Nigerian economy. He said, Mr. President, you are doing well with the economy, but I recognize that elections will come in less than a year. I hope it won't distract you from paying attention to the economy. That was when Mr. President said, no, most politicians in Nigeria are concerned about the elections, but he is more concerned with security and the economy. They discussed illegal migration. And Mr. President was particular about the youths. Later you will know something came up. We will come to that. Yes. But you see, in that bilateral meeting, he was concerned about the youths. He said the youths would dare the Mediterranean, they would dare the Sahara Desert, and a lot of them lose their lives in the process. And he and the PM agreed that the way to get youths to stay in their country was to make the condition at home positive for them. And it was a major thing. You will see that even if you look at the final communique of the meeting, migration also came up there. So it was a very good meeting with the British PM, and our president used the opportunity to commend British companies who have stayed in Nigeria through thick and thin. He mentioned Unilever, mentioned Cadbury, that even when Nigeria fought a war, those companies remained there. And he said, like Oliver Twist, he wants more British investors.
You know, from some of the things that you've said, and which we equally saw on in the social, on the media, Mr. President has a very busy engagement.
Quite.
Even prior to the Chogom. That's contrary to what we had in the build-up to his trip, that why is he traveling abroad. How did Mr. President cope with the level of work, the huge work that he had to do even while abroad?
Yes, if you know how the president's schedules are prepared, you know that nothing comes to him as a surprise. Like a week or two before that trip, everybody that he will see would have been documented. So Mr. President already knew, I will see this person on this day and at this time. So those who were bearing tales didn't know what they were saying. You see that we didn't even bother to respond to them because we knew why Mr. President was traveling. We were privy to the schedule, and everything that was on the schedule was accomplished.
Okay, let's go to the Chogom. From reports we had, it was one of the most well-attended meeting of heads of states and governments of the Commonwealth. But the question remains that how relevant is this body of majorly colonies of England that probably is too busy these days with domestic issue to have time? Is the Commonwealth still relevant?
I think it's quite relevant because your mere absence as a country in the Commonwealth is a red flag. Any country that is not there, you begin to ask yourself, is everything all right in that country? Because you know that the Commonwealth can even suspend. Nigeria had been suspended before. They had suspended many other countries where democracy failed. So the fact that you are part of that meeting is a positive. The rest of the world, particularly countries that were under British rule, 53 of them are gathering, and you are also there. I think it's a good gathering to attend. And then you'll find out that what are local concerns to each country are virtually becoming international concerns. The things that Mr. President raised with the British PM in the bilateral also featured at the Commonwealth meeting.
Yes.
It shows you that Nigerian concerns are also global concerns. And the theme of the Commonwealth is towards a common future. So if you want to play isolationism, then you'll be in trouble. The world, like they say, is not a global village. Everybody pulls together. If you want to pull alone, you will suddenly find yourself isolated, and it will not be good for you. So it's advisable that countries that belong to the Commonwealth continue to attend that party for the good of their people. One thing that came in the bilateral was the need for intra-Commonwealth trade. It was British PM that raised it, and it came up even in the communique. that Commonwealth countries must trade with one another more. Even Britain, that is like the umbrella of the Commonwealth, I think all that it does with Commonwealth countries is about 10% of our trade. So you see that a lot more can be done.
Do we have products to trade with? You know, one of the reasons why we didn't sign an agreement recently was because we will just be buying, we have nothing to sell. Do we?
That is why it is good that this administration is redesigning the Nigerian economy. The economy used to be solely based on oil. It was the only thing we sold. But now, with food self-sufficiency on the way, by the time we attain that, what else do we do with the excess? We export.
What is Mr. President's, what we can call the central theme of many of the things he said at the meeting, even in his interactions with other heads of state?
The three-pronged program he has for Nigeria: secure the country, fight corruption, revive the economy. They featured in all his interactions. So anybody president met, any forum he attended, those three issues. They delivered a paper at the Commonwealth Business Forum, and the topic was how to ease business among Commonwealth countries. He used Nigeria as an example, how we have moved up in the ease of doing business, how the economic recovery and growth plan, ERGP. So Nigeria almost became like a showpiece, a model for other Commonwealth countries.
Well, was that the forum where he was asked the question about the youth?
Yes, that was it. He had presented his paper, and there was a three-man panel of discussion. They discussed the paper, and then it was time for questions.
You were there in the hall?
No, I was not at that particular meeting, but there was a media center where you could follow.
Did Mr. President actually call Nigerian youths lazy?
I'm sure you have listened to the recording.
Okay.
And listen to the recording 8, 10, 15, 20, 40 times. You will not hear the word lazy. You will not hear it. Mr. President was emphatic that yes, Nigeria is an oil-producing nation, but that is not enough reason for some youths to now sit back and do nothing, saying we are an oil-producing nation, so everything must be delivered to our laps. In other words, he was saying youths must be up and doing. And he didn't say all Nigerian youths, he said a lot of. But then irresponsible politics came in, and people began to tweak and twist what he said for their own political
How is Mr. President reacting to such twisting and turning?
You need to know Mr. President. He is a man who takes things in his strides. No matter how noisy the thing can be, he just takes it in his strides.
So he has had?
Of course. There was a statement that we had to issue on his behalf, so he's up to date on things like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, the program is Nigeria Today. We are taking a look at Mr. President's participation at the just concluded Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting, which held in London recently. We still have Mr. Femi Additional in the studio, Special Advisor to Mr. President on Media and Publicity. We take a short break. We listen to some Nigerians on what they feel we achieved at the Chogon meeting before we now come back to the studio to round up.
Issues raised and discussed by our head of state were paramount and were explicitly discussed. Well, in my own opinion, like I said earlier, we were well represented because the issues were trashed out accordingly, well, to the extent of my expectation. They were trashed out accordingly, and it was, based on my own assessment, they were truly and correctly addressed.
That aspect that deal with how to attract a foreign investment into this country. Well, they did very, very good. Did very, very well. And I like what they did.
This one that happened there that our president attended, well, I believe he will see the good seat there and bring it back home. We are well represented.
Welcome back. You've had Nigerians there that were well represented and the issues were explicitly discussed. Well, Mr. Additional, what will you now say is our takeaway? What did we bring back? Do we bring back, you mentioned the shell, what are the other things that you say, okay, after our participation in CHOGM, these are our scorecards?
I would like us to distinguish between an official visit or state visit and a multilateral meeting. When you attend multilateral meetings, you don't come back home and just like a woman that has gone to the market and you say, oh, I took 1,000 naira worth of goods to the market, I sold 800 naira. No, you don't do that with multilateral meetings. Your mere presence itself is an advantage. The fact that the rest of the Commonwealth world saw Nigeria, saw Nigeria's leader, listened to Nigeria's leader is an advantage. And then, of course, towards a common future is the theme. And if you look at the communique, issues that feature in the communique are also Nigerian issues. That therefore means that Nigeria is not alone in its issues. The rest of the world is also engaged and involved with those issues. It was former American President Barack Obama who said at his last attendance at the UN General Assembly, he said the way the world is, no country can afford to go it alone again, that we all must team up. We almost team up, particularly to fight corruption, you can't do it alone. To fight insecurity, you can't do it alone. To fight cybercrime, you can't do it alone. To fight climate change, you can't do it alone. All these are Nigerian issues. They're also global issues, and they all came up at the Commonwealth. So I think Nigeria is in good stead to tackle these matters. And then, importantly, intra-Commonwealth trade.
Follow-up is key.
Yes.
Which area or areas do you think, or is government thinking of following up on, which are critical to
ministers of the Commonwealth in key ministries are meeting in June as a follow-up to that Commonwealth meeting. So they would then will come up with the key issues as it affects their country and chart ways forward. So the meeting is not ending. Having ended on April 28th, it's not ending like that. Another follow-up meeting, this time by ministers, will hold sometime in June.
How will you come to our studios and I will restrict you to only CHOGM? There are issues at home that we still need to talk about. Yes. Now, if we look at, I can't but still ask you, while you were away, we still had some sporadic attacks here and there. Was Mr. President hearing of some of these things, and what are some of his reactions and commands to those that are concerned?
Those attacks are sad, they're regrettable, they shouldn't happen. Tragically, they're happening, but they shouldn't happen. And Mr. President is somebody that is concerned. Even while there, the Director General of the State Security Services came to brief him. So Mr. President is on top of developments in the country. And I believe that quite soon, we should see a conclusive end to this orgy of bloodletting. And it's something that will be enduring. Of course, no country can continue to lose lives as we do lose now. A country that is not at war and you find scores of people killed daily. No, it is not. It is not right. It is not proper, and it is something that bothers Mr. President.
Now, let's look at the issue of the economy, especially as regards what Nigerian youths are contributing to the economy. Because of that misinterpretation that happened, a number of them are probably disillusioned now, wondering why it happened. The minds of the administration, maybe Nigerian youth still needs to hear from you about the Nigerian youth. What does government, the Nigerian government, think about them and doing to help them?
Precisely on April 5, Mr. President left the country April 9. So just 4 days before he left, he had received letters of credence from some foreign envoys. When he received the head of the EU delegation to Nigeria, he told him, why are we fighting corruption? We are fighting corruption so that we can build a future for Nigerian youths. So that already shows you that Mr. President is concerned about a future for the youths, a future that will be fulfilling, a future where their potentials can be realized. He said that's the reason corruption is being fought, so that money will be used for development. When you develop a country, why are you developing it? For the incoming generation. So the youths are smack in the agenda of Mr. President. Anybody that is then making politics from whatever he said doesn't know Mr. President. If you do a content analysis of what he has said in the past 3 years, you will see that he has always given youths their due. So that one comment, which was not even negative, can then not be turned into an albatross around the neck of the administration. And youths who are educated and who are productive don't need to bother, because then that does not refer to them. It's only referring to youths that are idle. And every country in the world has its idle population. The percentage may differ from country to country, but every country has its own idle population. And that is why Mr. President is trying to set a new foundation for the Nigerian economy, is trying to fight corruption, is trying to secure the country, so that our youths can have a country they can call their own, a country they believe in.
Okay. Mr. President said his main concern is not 2019 now, but how to deliver on some of the promises that he made to Nigerians. But how is he following up on the ministers, because or even other top government functionaries, you know, because okay, maybe Mr. President is committed to the ideals that he has espoused, but his lieutenants, you know, how do we ensure that everybody is on the page, on the same page with Mr. President?
You know, when he appointed this presidency, he must have given them a charge, which he did. It was even a public thing. He gave them a charge. There must be a target and a deliverable time for each minister. So Mr. President knows what he has given each minister to deliver at what time. So he's also the one that can assess them properly. And the fact that he has kept all of them shows that, by and large, they are fulfilling the purpose for appointing them. If anybody falls short of it, then Mr. President can always change that person.
What is your final word on this program, especially as we approach 2019? Is it going to be politics, or is it going to be governance?
Yes, of course politics is in the air. Primaries should start in a couple of months, and after that campaigns, I think, start in November. One thing you can be sure with Mr. President is that, yes, he's going to be involved in the politics and politicking because he's running, but governance will not suffer. Okay. Governance will not suffer. Governance will not take the back seat. Governance and politics will run simultaneously.
Pari passu. I must thank you, sir, Mr. Femi Adesina, for all that you said on the program.
Thank you.
This is where we call it a date on the program. I must thank my guest, Mr. Femi Adesina, Special Advisor to Mr. President on Media and Publicity, for all that he has said on the program. Once again, I thank you. My pleasure. Thank you. Until we come your way with yet another edition of the program, and that will be tomorrow. Do join us. I am Shegun Edeladi. Bye-bye.